You're watching KPRC2 Plus. Ask Amy is coming up next.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Ask Amy. Joining me today is HPD Sgt. Tracy Hicks. You work in auto theft, which I find to be a really interesting department, probably because you guys have so much going on in our city.
Yeah, in Houston, we're busy.
Yeah,
quite a bit. Statewide, we're number one.
It's number one in cars stolen in the state.
Right. Well, we're the largest city, so that leads to, the reason there's more cars here, there's more theft here.
Yeah, so you guys have probably seen Sergeant Hicks in a lot of the news stories that are done around town. You do a lot of community relations where you're just talking to people about theft prevention. But what are the biggest things that you guys are seeing right now in Houston in terms of your department, cases you guys are working?
Well, what's happening over the years, and I've been in auto theft, 16 years plus, is we've seen, every 3, 4, 5 years that the type of vehicle that's being stolen it changes, it rotates, and then also the way they're stealing cars. That's the biggest change that we've seen. Year after year, the technology in the cars changes, and crooks are figuring out, how do I steal this car without the key?
Yeah. So what
really
is the most stolen car in our area right now?
Well, right now, for the last several years, it's been the Chevy GMC trucks.
Oh.
Being in Texas, nationwide, we don't always match up with what's being stolen in the country, but Texans, we love our trucks, so there's more of them.
Yeah.
And crooks they've dialed into what the Chevy / GMC, which includes the Tahoe, the Suburban, the Cadillac Escalade. They're all they're similar truck.
All those popular big SUVs.
Right, and they've dialed it in. They know exactly how to steal them very quickly.
That's interesting. Is there something about the Chevy and the pickup trucks that make it more easier to steal than the
Yes, but I can't tell you.
than the Fords? Certainly there is.
Yes,
right?
5 years ago it was Ford trucks. I would have said the F-250 and the F-150s were at the top of the list because they knew how to steal those. The manufacturer seems to be a little slow. They're stolen for 3, 4, 5 years, and then they fix that problem, and then either the crooks figure out the new way, or they move on to another vehicle, and they, eventually, obviously now with technology in the cars with the key fobs, they're tricked electronically. So there's componentry that people invent that can trick this car. Well, that component is very expensive and it's very rare at first, but then just like anything else, after it's been out a while, you end up buying it on eBay, and then every crook buys one, and then so a couple of years go by that those cars are just flying out the door, being stolen, and then the manufacturer says, okay, well, let's fix this.
Yeah.
And they did. So I talk about Chevys and GMCs, the 22 versions, they did fix the problem. So that same way they're stealing the 17 through 21s is not the same. So the 22s are not being stolen yet.
All right.
But unfortunately, there's still a lot of the older ones out there which are, being stolen left and right here in Houston.
Are anything people can do from once you own the vehicle to fix that
There's
sort of?
lots of things people can do. I'm glad you asked. It's if anybody listens to me is another thing, and I preach it every day, is the 17 to 20. You got a 17 to 21 Chevy or a GMC truck. This includes the Tahoes, the Suburbans. Is we can go old school with a club. I mean, can a
They
club
still
be?
sell those?
Well, I can't say club. That's a brand name.
Yeah, but
a
one of those
steering wheel
devices,
lock, of sorts,
Right.
or even one that locks to your gas pedal, is they can be defeated. Yes, they can bend them and break them and
Right.
saw them on. But I mean, there's so many Chevy trucks. The whole idea is like, well, this one's going to take me longer. Why not get the one parked next to me that doesn't have it? Which is a simple, inexpensive, but you'd be surprised at how many vehicles I've found, recovered stolen vehicles that have a club or steering wheel lock in the floorboard
that nobody used.
Right, because it doesn't work. That's the tip. It doesn't work when it's in the floorboard or in the trunk of your car.
Right.
And alarms. You'd be surprised. I did a segment about what the alarms of today are. A lot of people think when you lock your car door that it chirps. they think, well, my car, I must have a factory alarm.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that chirp tells you your door's locked. That's all it does. There's no alarm.
Oh,
So, you
But
know,
do people listen to alarms in busy parking lots when the alarm goes off?
People have become immune to them, you know, and even me, you know, I walk through a Walmart parking lot and the alarm's going off. You don't think nothing
Pay
of
attention to it, right?
Or an apartment. Every time remember the old alarms? Every time it rained,
Yes,
you'd hear them all going off in the parking lot. Nobody pays attention to them. New alarms, today's alarms, they're not your father's alarms. Trust me. I went out and did some research. You know, go into any of these places that, you know, they're up and down the freeways that sell. I can't mention any brand names, but you know, they all sell similar. And
that do what differently?
I said, well, okay, well, explain to me what they have now that they didn't have. So some of the things I've told people over the years to make sure that your new alarm has is a glass break sensor. And what that is people don't understand that I can smash your driver's window out, grab your purse or bag off the seat, your alarm doesn't go off. If you have a glass break sensor, it's actually a microphone in your car that senses what glass break sounds like, and it sets off the alarm. So that's a good thing to have. They have vibration sensors or motion sensors. Someone hits your car, bumps your car, or hits it with a saw, they're cutting off your catalytic converters. Most alarms won't go off. And so the new ones, they have these new features. They all have all of these features. So in the past, it was more a la carte. Okay, how much do I want to spend?
Right.
The GPS trackers. Most of the new alarms, you can track them on your phone. There's no extra fee. There's no. I asked them, is there a service fee? No, it comes.
Where you could find
have an app on
where your
phone.
vehicle is.
And the good thing about this is people don't realize is I work downtown, and let's say I park in a parking garage a block away, and I'm 3 floors up. Well, do you know if your alarm's going off? I mean, there's no way. So now your phone will tell you, hey, my alarm's going off. If you live in an apartment complex and you're 3 buildings away from your car, you know, I don't know my car alarm's going off. So your phone tells you, hey, your car alarm's going off. You can also, you know, that you get in your apartment and you're like, oh, did I lock my doors?
Yeah.
The new alarms, you can actually remotely make sure your doors are locked. It'll tell you if your car's locked or not. And it's kind of neat. So there's actually quite a few features
that make it worth it.
They said, you know, between $400 and up to $800, you know, so you kind of, and I said, well, okay, well, what do I get on the $400 opposed to the $800? I mean, there are more features. He says, honestly, it's really the remote. I'm like, what does the remote have to do with it? He goes, well, this one you can throw in the mud and run over with your car. It's still going to work, and this one not so much. I'm like, so there's a $400. He goes, yeah, really. He goes, even the cheaper alarms have all these features built into them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you seen the price of cars lately?
Yeah.
I mean, a truck is $80,000 to $90,000, and you're not willing to, you know, Chevy truck,
right?
And you're not willing to go spend, you know, $600 for an alarm. That's ridiculous.
Right. And also, you could check with your insurance company. But I mean, if you're paying for the alarm, you may also get an extra discount.
Oh yes, yeah. Matter of fact, it is. Most you get 10% on your comprehensive. So. You get 10% off of half of your insurance bill.
Right. And that's because, I mean, one of those reasons, probably I was looking for this number that I wrote down, because it seems like car theft is so frequent. These were burglary of motor vehicles, not car thefts, but averaging, about how often does that happen in Houston?
You all just did a report a couple weeks ago that, and I mean, if you look at the numbers, I'm comparing year to year. We average, 40 a day. I mean, it's actually, if we compare like in the last 12 months, it was closer to like 47 a day.
Wow.
That's just the city limits. That's not counting all of Harris County. All of our viewership is including. So, I mean, I'm just talking the city limits of Houston. In the last several years, I mean, it's been 40 or more a day average.
And it used to seem like more because you guys changed the way you count the numbers, right? So burglary of a motor vehicle used to include if somebody stole the tires off my car? Right.
That's another category. So it's because auto theft, obviously we handle, breaking into a car, stealing stuff out of your car. And then we also if someone stole something from your car, wheels and tires obviously is a big deal. With trucks, the tailgates, we all know somebody's had their tailgate stolen. And now catalytic converters, obviously that's the big ticket item now. And, at 16 years in auto theft, things rotate. It was this and it was rampant, and now it's this. And we're actually seeing an uptick of taillights, believe it or not. That's the new.
Why taillights?
And that's what I said.
Right.
I'm
What
like,
does
that
anybody
doesn't
want
make,
with
I mean,
taillights?
they're worth a few $100s, right?
Yeah.
No, they're worth, some of them are worth up to $2,000 a piece.
Are they reselling them, or do you?
Well, yes, they, just resell them. If you have a newer vehicle, do you know the lane departure,
Yes,
software? And then also there's software that tells you if there's someone in your blind spot.
Right.
Well, that's a radar that, that shoots backwards to let me know somebody's back there.
Right.
Well, guess where those are at?
In
They're
your taillights.
They're in your taillights.
Oh, and I don't mean to sound naive when I say they're reselling them. Of course they're reselling them, but I'm wondering if it's like sort of like the catalytic converters. Are they reselling them to somebody
No,
who's taking
they're just selling them online,
they
kind of
could
like
just
a
go to-
tailgate.
to
They
eBay and say, or anywhere.
And there's so many, and it's mostly the truck taillights because once I lower the tailgate, I can unscrew them. But locking your tailgate is huge.
Right.
I know a lot of new trucks, and I've had some new trucks that when you lock your door, you can actually listen and you hear it lock the tailgate. But
Oh, wow.
So everyone needs to do that for their own and figure out if yours does that. Is lock your door and then go pull on your tailgate and see if that works. See if it automatically locks, which is nice. But if not, just as a habit, always keep your tailgate locked, because if I can't open it, I can't steal it, and I can't get your taillights out.
Got it. Good. Okay, so let's talk about catalytic converters because you brought that up. We haven't heard as much about it in the news lately. Is it just because we're all tired of hearing about it? Or is it...
I think that's it, honestly. For the last, since January of 21, it's been my mission. My boss, my mission before catalytic converters was stop leaving guns in cars. We'll talk about that later. But it was guns, guns, guns. And then January of 2020, my boss said, okay, all hands on deck. It's all catalytic converters. I'm like, what? I know what a catalytic converter is, but what is that? It's a piece of your exhaust. And then, I started studying and reading, like, why is it went through the roof? So the city of Houston got hit hard in December of 2019. And that's what kind of sparked it all, like, wow, this is becoming a problem. And then realizing.
You mean fleet, like the city's fleet got targeted.
Yeah. We have a bunch of Priuses. I didn't know we had a bunch of Priuses.
Right.
Apparently we do. And they got hit hard. And so, my job was to kind of research this, and it's happening everywhere. It's worldwide.
Right.
Worldwide shortage of these precious metals that are in a catalytic converter. And there's minuscule amounts.
Right.
But because the metals are so expensive, a minuscule amount is still worth a couple $100.
Yeah.
So a quick little chop, and you've made a couple $100.
I mean, and you mean quick, like these videos that you can see all online. It takes
120 seconds. 2 minutes tops, and that's if you have to cut several of them off. If
Right.
it's just the one, it's less than a minute.
So you talked about, so these three metals you're talking about that when they resell them, that makes them so valuable: platinum, rhodium, and palladium.
Yes,
that are
yes.
inside there.
Yes, and they're. I've actually went to a processing plant where they actually cut the catalytic converter open and they crush the innards and they chemically analyze it. Well, then they sell that dust. It's almost a talcum powder. To a smelter that goes to another location. They melt it down, and then they sell that to another smelter who separates the metals, and then it goes right back into catalytic converters.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, rhodium is there's not a lot of it. They told me at the processing plant that all of the rhodium in the United States would fit in an 1,100 square foot house.
Wow.
That there's not a lot of it, so it just keeps reused over and over and over again.
Okay.
So there is a need to recycle them.
Right.
And the crooks have just figured out that, oh well, this is the market for now. And the good news is that the price of those metals has just plummeted. Right. So during COVID was a big factor with the mines and where it was coming from. They're still expensive, but they're a fraction of they were 2 summers ago.
So let's talk about vehicles. So if I'm in the market for a new vehicle, I probably don't want to buy one that is one of the most heavily targeted for catalytic converter theft.
Oh, you want to talk about like what type of vehicles we're
that
looking
they're
at?
stealing catalytic converters off of.
For all of our listeners that have a Toyota Tundra, you already know because yours have probably already been stolen. And I personally own a Toyota Tundra. I've been pretty lucky so far. The Toyota Tundra and the Sequoia, which is the same vehicle. Sequoia is just an SUV version of that.
Got it.
So they have, and the reason why they're the target is because every manufacturer has a different. I want more of this metal. I want my car to be more eco-friendly. So Toyota apparently has the more eco-friendly vehicles, so they have more of the metal in their catalytic converters. Now a Tundra has 4 catalytic converters.
Oh,
so
it's like
in chop, and I've got 4 as opposed to 1 or 2.
It's like going to a superstore instead of just a drugstore.
Exactly.
Right.
So the Tundras and the Sequoias being number 1. The Prius has 3. Only 2 of them can be cut off because one of them's in the engine compartment. You can't get to that. But with the Prius, like you go out to California, they're being targeted. But here we have so many trucks as opposed to California. With the Prius, you got to have a jack. So they have to lift up the car. It's a lot more process. So we're not having as many Priuses hit here.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean the entrepreneurs are going to be out there with a jack. So
because those trucks you can just
there's
slide
so many
out.
trucks. You don't need anything. You slide underneath it. So the Prius, the Toyota 4Runner, and the Toyota Tacoma, the newer ones have 4. You can only cut 2 of them off. The 2 of them you can't reach, so that they grab the 2 they can get because they're worth the most.
Yeah.
After that, the Honda CR-V, which is a very popular vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just thousands of CR-Vs on the road, so those are being hit. The Honda Element, and then after those vehicles, they switched to the 3/4 ton trucks. So the big diesels, the F-250, the 3/4 ton Chevy and Dodge, their catalytic converters are just the size; they're huge, so they're worth more just because of the volume. So they have a lot of the metal, and they're still getting a lot of money. They're bigger. Maybe not targeting as much because their cats are 4 foot long. They're huge,
harder to get away with.
Right,
to throw into the back of a truck.
But they're hitting anything. Some of these crooks, they get the word like, oh wow, this is what we steal, so they'll go steal. I mean, people say, what about my car? What about my car? I said, we've seen reports of almost every car because crooks, they'll steal it thinking that they're all worth this much, but when they go to sell them to whoever, their middleman or whatever, oh well, that one's only worth $20. Well, then they don't steal that one again anymore. They know.
Right.
So they learn real fast that, okay, these 10 vehicles have the expensive ones.
So look for those.
So they look for those specifically.
All right. When we come back, I want you to talk to us a little bit about what we can do on our vehicles. Not just, we've talked about to prevent the vehicle from being stolen, but for those catalytic converter thefts, to prevent that, and like about how much that costs to sort of make me less of a target.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back.
They're some of Texas' most notorious crimes.
Does Carla Faye Tucker ring a bell to you? That's her pickaxe. This guy was a serial killer. She was the stiletto killer.
Now, KPRC2 Investigates takes you inside the evidence room.
These boxes contain the stories of real people.
Every time I pull his case down off the shelf, you take one of those deep breath kind of things.
Join us Wednesday at 6:30 for The Evidence Room on the KPRC2 Plus live stream.
Welcome back. We are here with Sergeant Hicks of HPD Auto Theft, and today we're talking about all things auto theft in Houston and around the Houston area. We were talking about catalytic converter thefts. So in reporting this story and this crime and focusing so much on this, we tell people, before it happens to you, or you always tell people, obviously, once it happens, don't let it happen again.
Right.
Get something put under your vehicle protecting that catalytic converter.
Right.
What do you recommend?
Now, what we've been doing actually in the community, we've had several this last summer and even in the fall, is we're telling people is because catalytic converters are not marked. There's no way to identify. I catch a crook with 20 of them. I can't prove any of them are stolen. I don't know what vehicles they came off of. So we're encouraging people to take the last 8 numbers of your VIN number, that little number on your dashboard. There's also a sticker inside your door. We just need the last 8 can be tracked back to your car. So the last 8 numbers is taking a Dremel tool, and I use a little mini die grinder and just scratching that number into your catalytic converters to all 2, 3, 4, however many you have.
Right.
And then taking some high temperature paint and then spray painting it. And that the high temperature, because it gets hot and regular paint would just disappear. So get some high temperature paint, any auto parts store, the 2,000 degree paint, and you spray paint it and spray it 3 or 4 inches past your cat on either side. And what that's going to do is we catch a bad guy, and then we get a phone call in the middle of the night. Hey, there's some people underneath my neighbor's car, and by the time we get there, we might catch the guy 2 blocks away. And there's 3 guys in the car, and they've got 20 catalytic converters in their trunk. In the past, before the laws had changed, the city council and whatever, there's nothing we could do. I can't prove they're stolen. I can't even take them from them.
Wow.
So now, if I see 2 red ones in there, our patrol guys are like, there's a painted one. The paint lets us know to pick it up and look for a number. And even if we find it in a metal scrap yard, we see painted ones, we're going to double check those painted ones for numbers, and then we can get some charges. Now you're in possession of stolen property. We can take them from them and even return them back to the owners.
Okay, so I thought it was paint it or etch it, but you etch it and then you paint it to let you know, so you're not inspecting every single one and looking for this small number etched on
If you
there.
have a Tundra or Tacoma, and the etching events that we have done here in the city, we partnered up with Walmart was a big place, and then we had some oil change, some local mom and pop oil change places that let us come in and use their pits, and we've done over 1,000 vehicles.
Wow.
But when I get a Tundra come in or a Tacoma, I'll come up out of that pit and I'll explain to that person. I'll say, look, I have just done step 1 and step 2. There is a very important 3rd step, is you have to get a plate. It's a metal plate that you're bolting to the bottom of your vehicle. Some of your viewers already have one because they've already been targeted.
Right.
If I'm warning you that if you have a Tundra or a Tacoma, especially those, that don't wait until you got to pay that $500 deductible, or you don't have full coverage insurance, and you're paying, a Tundra is over $10,000 to fix.
Wow.
I'm not joking. It's $10,000 to fix, to replace all 4 of your catalytic converters. That's if they've just done damage to that, because those guys are underneath your car. They're cutting brake lines, fuel lines.
They're not being really careful.
Lines, any type of wiring. I mean, they're just chopping. And we've had some one guy told me last week he paid $15,000 to have his truck repaired.
Wow.
Because of the other damage that they've done. And so don't wait until it happens. If you have one of those 2 vehicles, you have to go to a 4-wheel drive parts place. They have a skid plate. There's a lot of places online. You can just get online, and now they make other products. They make wire cages, and they make wire wraps and stuff.
Right.
The problem with those, if you have a Tundra that has 4, well, I've got to buy 4 of those. So it's really expensive when a plate can kind of cover all 4 at one time.
Got it.
And I've seen them as low as $250 up to maybe $400 at the most, but it's the same thing. Doesn't matter where you get it. Any of the places that sell the lift kits for trucks, they sell those type of products. It's a skid plate for your vehicle. Right.
I mean, and all of the things you're talking about is just hardening the target.
That's my catchphrase right there. Is we got to harden the targets.
Another crime that falls under your department is jugging. Talk to us a little bit about what that is for people who don't know. Juggers.
It's kind of a term it's been around a while. Is when people are being 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was mostly people that had businesses. They were followed, from the bank, making their Friday afternoon deposit. And so they were followed and robbed usually. Well, now jugging includes, any of the high-end stores, or
where people go from the Galleria and they might have
I'm not allowed to say that store, but yes, exactly. That's the place you said, where there's a lot of high-end stores, a lot of purse places and stuff, and they have people that scope the place out, and like I said, it's not just there, but jewelry stores all over town, anywhere you'd buy a high-ticket item, even in the big box stores around Christmas. I know what a PlayStation 5 looks like when it's in a bag, or a laptop, and then watching where they go, you follow them, and then they're going to go into another store or go to a restaurant, and then they break in your car and steal your stuff. That's what we call the juggers, and we've had some very violent ones, and we've had some very high-end restaurants, inside the 610 Loop, where there's a lot of very expensive places to eat, and people buying very nice, having nice cars, and we've had a few in the last couple of years. We had the New Orleans police sergeant, was jugged because of the watch he was wearing, sitting in a very nice restaurant, and enjoying himself here in Houston, and he was robbed and ended up losing his life over a jugger, And so it's not just a property crime anymore. These crimes are getting more and more violent, and we need to stick together, and we need to keep an eye out. It's really keeping your head up, walking through a parking lot, looking at your phone, and not paying attention to your surroundings. And if you've made a large ticket purchase, knowing that it could happen is step one. You educating these people, with shows like this, is telling people, like, look, those days are gone. We can't just
go to the next place and leave it in your trunk.
Enjoy. No, you buy something expensive, see if anybody's following you. Take it home, drop it off, especially as the holidays are approaching. I always tell people, I said, buy your high ticket item last. Go buy your stocking stuffers first, and then go buy your big ticket item that you got for your special loved one, and then take it, go directly home, and then make sure you're not followed home. So it's education is huge. Something
else big to you that people are leaving in their vehicles, and we see a lot of in Texas and in Houston, are guns.
Oh my goodness!
And my first question was, why does anybody leave it in the car? And you're sometimes.
Last year, over 3,600 guns, and when I think about that, I'm like, wow. That number should be zero. Like, there's numbers, and you think, it's percentage this, that, down, whatever. I'm like, but that number, out of all, BMVs, there's always going to be people breaking in cars. There's always going to be people stealing wheels and tires. There's always going to be people stealing cars.
Yeah.
But stealing a gun out of a car is 100% preventable.
Yeah.
Because there is never, ever a time or a reason to leave a gun unsecured in your vehicle. Ever. That 3,600. Now, this year, that was last year's numbers. That was 2021. 2022, we're going to beat that number. We're already at that number, and we still got a few months. We're looking closer to 4,200.
Wow. And I said, well, I thought you could just take your gun with you wherever you go, but there are certain restaurants, bars, you can't take them into.
Right. And people know that back in the day, we had a carry conceal class, and they taught you in that class. And I'm for the class. You can still take the class. The class really teaches you a lot about the rules, and it's like, oh, well, we can carry conceal wherever we want now. Yes. But there's a lot of rules, there's still rules, who can have them is still there, and where you can take them is still there. Your kid's school, there's a lot of places you might not want to take I don't want to take my gun into church.
What's the solution if you're carrying it?
It's so simple. It's a little gun safe. They're inexpensive. If you're like me, guns are expensive. I don't want to lose my gun, regardless of the fact of, like, what is someone going to do with my gun? Because I was irresponsible. I have a right to carry a gun. Right, that's my right. But with rights comes responsibility. We can't just, I demand my rights. Well, no, you have a responsibility too. You need to secure that.
All right, we will put information for some of your pages and some of the videos that you do on our website so people can watch those. But I appreciate you coming in and talking to us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much. And everybody have a great day. That wraps up this episode of Ask Amy.